In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
250 years after the American Revolution against British-style imperialism, this is the man that represented imperialism in American policy.
And we're not going to put it up. Yeah, I want to be reimbursed because we're protecting a very rich portion of the world. We're spending money. And so what we've done is we are going to be reimbursed for protection. We're protecting by the countries that we're helping. We don't need them. You know, we have more oil than any other country in the world. When you add Venezuela.
Boom. that was the explosion of, I don't know, maybe the economy, maybe EU capitals. All right. So good morning and good evening. We found Jelena, brought her back here. It's Tuesday, the 14th, and this is East Calling the Whiners with Larry. Boy, there is a lot going on, and good to have you, Larry. How are you doing?
Well, good. Thanks. Just a question. Okay, the whiners.
Yes.
Now, is this the whiners as in drinking wine, or is it whiners like, I don't like it?
Yes, both. In fact, okay. You've been on the whiners with Jeff Norman and me.
Right.
It is the same, and we are professional whiners, actually.
Okay. All right.
So there you have it. Now I also put a couple of videos there in the intro, military industrial complex. I've been doing a little bit of looking into Eisenhower, which I wanted to bring up in a bit, but I thought just because it is a little bit fiery, we should just go ahead and talk about Lindsey Graham off the bat. And I want to talk about that because on Sonar 21, your website, well, you have said that Lindsey was killed in Kiev. And it's interesting because I started looking at a number of different things. Correct me if I'm wrong on that in a second. But I started asking around. I started looking at different things, and I got definite pushback on what you are saying, and I want you to answer that. So here's a couple things. One is that Trump himself had confirmed in a phone call or on some news thing that he talked to Lindsey when he landed and before he died in the U.S., and so there was that. I know people are saying, oh, well, Putin was out to kill Lindsey Graham. And I thought, well, why would he kill Lindsey Graham when, he could have killed Zelensky and ended it right there? So that didn't make sense. TMZ also released pictures that they claim are pictures of Lindsey Graham on a stretcher getting into an ambulance before he died after arriving. So, Larry, it sounds like, I don't know, there's challenges, let's put it that way, to what you wrote in Sonar 21.
Well, what I wrote, I didn't say he was killed in Kiev. I said he died, most likely died in Kiev, because the timeline doesn't work. The only way the timeline works is that he does something that I've never seen anybody that's traveled to Kiev do before. The trip from the United States to Kiev is a 20-hour trip. You don't fly into it. You fly into Poland, take a train,
right,
and then you go on to Kiev. The overnight train from Warsaw is a 10-hour journey. The flight from Warsaw to the United States is roughly, it's like nine and a half hours going over because you got tailwinds, 10 and a half hours going back because you got headwinds. What led me to why I focused on the fact that the timeline didn't work is I got some notes in the morning from folks who were in the, let's call it at the Pentagon in the operations centers, and they were just commenting that senior officers were running around talking about the fact that Lindsey had died in Kyiv. So I thought, so let's look at the timeline. If now, and I subsequently received information from someone who claimed, no, Lindsey was in Turkey, and then he went from Turkey to Kyiv. Well, okay, still, you gotta go to Warsaw, take the train, so no way you get out of that 10-hour train ride. But then how do you get home? The only way you get home is he arrives in Kyiv on Friday morning at around 10:30 a.m. Has lunch with Zelensky, tours the factory, which that's a whole nother issue of was he tagged? In other words, did the Russians follow him to the factory? Because they blew the hell out of it later in that day. I don't believe he was killed or died in the factory. But then he came out and he gave a press conference late that afternoon. Well, then the train, the overnight train that then leaves back to Warsaw, leaves at 7 p.m. So he showed up at 11 a.m., stayed basically for 7 hours or 9 hours, and then turned around and hopped the train and left. I suppose that's possible. That would be the only explanation for him getting back to D.C. in time to die.
I mean, he's definitely not a young spry chicken. And the other reports are that it was aortic dissection, which, I mean, I know one person that was close to me who had an aortic dissection and survived. So
that's highly unusual. I mean, my brother died of it. Younger brother.
Yeah. I should add, the only reason that they survived is they were in a town in Pennsylvania. Shoot, I'm suddenly forgetting the name of the town. And that town happened to have one of the preeminent heart surgeons around in the United States, and they were less than 30 minutes away, and got there to that hospital, and he literally immediately saved her life, and that was the only reason she lived.
Yeah, I actually also had one close person close to our family, and the man was pretty young. He was only 42, and he passed away also from aortic rupture. So it even doesn't have to have anything related to age. It's very rapid and sudden. And really, Ryan, your story that the person survived, that's really a miracle.
Oh, no, it's totally a miracle. Totally miracle.
Yeah, because that man, he literally died with his wife close. She called the doctors, and by the time doctors arrived, I think in 15 minutes, he already bled out. So it was really terrible. And
the one I find amusing though is the claim. Well, Donald Trump said he spoke to him at 7 p.m. Oh yeah, Donald Trump hasn't lied about a goddamn thing. I mean, he's Mr. Honesty. Everything he says, take it to the bank. Like the Strait of Hormuz is open. We obliterated the Iranians. The Iranians are defeated. If the Iranians are defeated, why are we going back to war with them? So that's what I say. So don't offer me proof that Donald Trump said he talked to him. Donald Trump could have been having a hallucination. It is, but if Lindsey actually got off the train at 11, had lunch, shook hands, did some blow with Zelensky,
it's possible too.
Yeah, toured the drone factory, gave the Russians the location of the drone factory, and then hop back on a train to get back to D.C. Yeah, he could have made it, and then he wouldn't have died in Kyiv. However, if even in previous trips that have been short, the research I admit my research may be inadequate, but I can't record an instance of someone just going in and getting the hell out immediately, not staying overnight, unless there's a new protocol that because the Russians have issued the warnings they did, they're just saying, hey, don't stay overnight. We can't guarantee your safety.
Well, I mean, I know Trump is a liar. But on the other hand, I think this guy was his closest ally, and they were working together now on this Senate Bill 1241, the Sanctioning Russia Act, which, you know, enemies like Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders and who is that? Richard Blumenthal. You know, these are enemies, but they're all happy to agree on this one idea. So, and Lindsey Graham was the main guy. So it doesn't make sense to me that Trump would dump his closest ally, because he was never really close to Russia. I mean, let's be honest. He said certain things. Bobby Kennedy was more tuned in on what was going on in Russia than Trump was. Right. So it's like, you know, you think about those people that are hurting Donald Trump to do what the establishment wants. Lindsey Graham was right there always. So it doesn't seem to me that he'd get rid of the guy that was like that on him. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, I don't say he got rid of him. I'm just saying that,
or he wouldn't go along with the conspiracy to get rid of him, or cover it up, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, no, I can see him covering it up. I mean, if he died, let's say he died under other mysterious circumstances in Kyiv, that they wouldn't want to admit something like that, possibly, or that that him dying in Kyiv, it makes a better story. He died suddenly in his home. Again, who made the 911 phone call? I mean, this guy didn't have a wife, didn't have a family.
But he did have a boyfriend or something like that.
Yeah, so I mean, so it's just I guess the only good news out of this is his malicious influence on foreign policy is over for now, and but there'll be others trying to pick up that banner and continue forward, driving the United States into a new war.
Actually, you know what? I was a little bit listening to what American podcasters were saying about death of Lindsey Graham, and mostly what people are worried about. Democrats, of course, are happy because they will get a chance to get a seat in the Congress, and Republicans are mostly concerned about the fact that they have lost a seat. So I don't think that it will anyhow change the external policy of United States in I would say en masse, because this is just like a hydra. One of the heads is off, but there is a whole hydra behind that, and I don't see actually in that Russophobia that is promoted by what was promoted by Lindsey Graham, who was actually listed as terrorist and an extremist in Russia. I think the same as John McCain was. And the thing is that, okay, one head is off by natural causes or by unnatural causes. It doesn't isn't that important. The thing is that Hydra is there itself. And I don't see how Merz, for example, is different from Lindsey Graham. They both of them, and all of them are actually serving the interests of some entity or entities, which simply wants to preserve the old world order, and simply is I would say that these people who are serviced by current EU managers and people like Lindsey Graham, they are enemies of normal people all across the globe, including US, Russia, Europe.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Lindsey is, yes, one off. Of course, I really, what I want to say, I cannot cheer the fact that he's dead, because, well, it's good to cheer when a living person fails, but, you know, deceased persons are, maybe it's not so nice to cheer the death of somebody, but, well, he was what he was. It's I wouldn't say it's funny what happened to him, because it will happen to every one of us in one way or another, but yeah. I don't think that his death will make any difference in what is happening between Russia and the United States, or between United States and Iran. And as Larry, as you have said, that there would be others who will gladly pick up the banner and continue what he was doing. That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was on RT recently, the day he died, and the thing that struck me, Larry, and I think it's important, and I'd like to have you address this too. Here we are, it's America 250, July 4th, 1821, John Quincy Adams delivered the speech that he's most remembered for, where he said, America does not go abroad in search of monsters to destroy. Otherwise, America, which aspires for leadership, would be led astray and become a dictator and no longer the ruler of its own spirit. So I think he embodied that, and that too, Jelena said, unfortunately, we are completely far away from what John Quincy Adams and our founding fathers before him 250 years ago had in mind.
Yeah, no, we've the history of empires, I mean, throughout recorded history, is that that the numbers who waste their money on foreign enterprises, foreign adventures, that's what ultimately leads to their demise. It hollows them out inside at home. They've spent all of their money overseas. So, I think that's, when you consider the trillions now that we have dumped over the last 66 years, so go back to 1960 in Vietnam, it was really the Vietnam War is what broke the international financial system as far as the United States was concerned. Forced us off the gold standard. We reinvented ourselves with the petrodollar. But again, it was, I think, and I'm not sure how many trillions of dollars in terms of current U.S. dollars were spent in that war, but I'm sure it was much more than $1 trillion, money that we didn't have, that was taken away from the American people. And then we've thrown it down the toilet over the last 25 years in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Libya, Yemen, to a lesser extent, Somalia. So we just go on and on. It is, the United States has hollowed itself out, and now we're doing it with by proxy with Ukraine, and that's where I wrote a piece last night explaining why the United States cannot win in the Strait of Hormuz, and it simply becomes a matter of the weapon systems that we have. I had to, I admit I had made an error in the past of using HIMARS as referring to HIMARS as a weapon, and it's not. It's a launcher. But it launches 3 types of missiles, and so the news reports were the other day that there were, quote, HIMARS and ATACMS being fired all along these sites in the Strait of Hormuz. Well, number one, there's only one missile. It's called the Precision Strike Missile, PRSM is its acronym, that could be fired. The problem is the United States has made less than 60 of them this year. This is the first year that they're starting to make them, okay? So we're not sitting there on a stack of 1,000 or 5,000. We got less than 60. So because those can go a range of 500 kilometers, so 300 miles. Well, the problem is the Persian Gulf right there from like Bahrain, where these things are allegedly being fired from, across is only 180 miles. So, and then we get the ATACMS. Well, that is the maximum range for the ATACMS. So, and then when you look at where do we get these weapons? Well, to make them, we rely upon some rare earth minerals, primarily magnets that come out of China that are needed for the guidance systems, etc. Except China's put an embargo on those. So we're not getting those. So we don't have them to produce. So here's the United States fighting a war with weapons that it can't produce. And the longer it goes on, this applies as well to Tomahawks and to JASSMs. So we're depleting an arsenal that we don't have. And so this comes back to, you go back to Ukraine. Well, we've given some of those, we gave ATACMS to Zelensky and he used those, and then the Russians were able to shoot him down. And so we stopped giving them to Zelensky. Now we're talking about doubling down and giving him, more money, but we can't give him more weapons. We say, well, yeah, we'd love to give you some more Patriots, except we can't make any more of those either because of the lack of rare earth minerals. So, I mean, this thing, the United States system is so out of touch with reality, with economic reality. And today I heard Trump bagging about, oh, we're the number one producer of oil in the world. Hey, dumbass, look at the refineries. What do the refineries refine? They refine an oil that we do not produce. Can't say this enough. This is one of the big damn lies out there that is deceiving people. That is it true that we produce more sweet crude than any other country? Yeah, that looks to be the case. The problem is when they built the refineries are designed where they can deal with either sweet crude or sour crude. The difference is the sour crude comes with a lot of impurities, has a lot of sulfur. So you literally, there are certain configurations of how, the thing is structured. It's just not a matter of changing a button or two. It's not a matter of just flipping a switch. Oh, I want it heavy or I want it light. No, you've got differences. And the reason 70% of our refineries are designed to deal with sour crude is because it's more profitable, because the sour crude is cheaper, but they can make more money off of the sour crude. So we say, great. Here's the issue. Out of the sour crude, we make diesel and aviation fuel. There currently is a global shortage of diesel and aviation fuel because 25% of the world's supply of sour crude is no longer there. It's in the Persian Gulf. It's not coming out. That's the issue. And, anyway, here's Trump. Oh, we got all this oil and we're exporting like crazy. Yeah, it's all sweet. And it doesn't change the picture that we've got a shortage now of diesel and aviation fuel, and it's only going to get worse in the coming weeks.
Let me ask you something on that, because you just triggered my brain. Apparently, Saudi Arabia currently, and there might be an update on this, that's why I'm asking, is currently able to move some of its oil, maybe it's 15%, out the Red Sea. You're nodding your head. I think you know what I'm talking about.
About 7 million barrels, but the little thing called the Houthis.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you about. Yeah.
I mean, you got to look at Saudi Arabia and think, are they really this stupid? I mean, how reckless and senseless can you be when your only exit for oil right now is in a place called Yanbu on the Red Sea, and so you've got to take it out either through the Suez Canal or through the Bab el-Mandab Strait down south. Who controls the Bab el-Mandab? Well, the Houthis. Now, the Saudis and the Houthis had about a 6-year war. They've been on a hiatus now for a couple of years, sort of declared a truce. So think of this, I'm Saudi Arabia and I'm saying, I got to make sure I can get all this oil out through the Yanbu that I can. And I want to make sure I don't have any problems down south. You know what? I'm gonna go buy some flowers and candy and go visit my buddies, the Houthis. and just make sure that we're on the best terms possible, that we're getting along. Therefore, I don't have anything to worry about. Is that what the Saudis did? Oh, hell no. They decided, well, hey, we're going to attack their airfield. We're going to start a war with them. And the Houthis, they're like a bunch of Irishmen. And I get to say this about Irishmen because I'm half Irish and I understand it. The Irish, they love a good fight. And
Right.
if they're not in one, by God, they're gonna go looking for one. So the Houthis Houthis get attacked. So the start of yesterday, the Saudis bombed one of their airfields. Houthis turn around and bomb two airfields of theirs. One's called Amba, and the others, I think the King Fahd up closer to, it's either Mecca or Medina. But then the Saudis are going to strike back, and the Houthis they're going to hit Yanbu with missiles and make it impossible to take anything out of there because the oil refinery will be on fire. Does that make sense? Absolutely crazy, but that's what they did.
So you were mentioning Trump. I think you might have been talking about this quote here. I had grabbed some clips which went into the intro. Let's take a quick look at Donald Trump and his brilliant economic mind.
And we're not going to put it up. Yeah, I want to be reimbursed because we're protecting a very rich portion of the world. We're spending money. And so what we've done is we are going to be reimbursed for protection. We're protecting by the countries that we're helping. We don't need them. We have more oil than any other country in the world. When you add Venezuela.
Yeah, we got more oil than anybody. Well, that's true and not true. Yeah, we have more sweet oil than anybody in the world right now pumping it. But that's not what drives our economy. Our economy is driven by diesel and aviation fuel. That only comes right now from the sour crude. Now you'll feel, oh, wait a second, you're giving misinformation. You can produce diesel and gasoline from sweet oil. Yes, you can if you've got the right damn refineries, which we do not have. Okay? So let's cut that nonsense. Focus on the reality. The reality is right now, 70% of our refineries are set up to refine that sour crude to output diesel and aviation fuel. And the other thing is, when it's refining for diesel, they can't be doing aviation. It's got to do one or the other. And again, it's not like just turning, if you have a coffee grinder and you can set fine to coarse.
Right.
It's not like adjusting a dial. No, you set it up how it's going to, what product you're going to put out. So,
well, the other thing on this, Larry, is that transactional mentality is what I'm hearing in what he just said. It's not really, there's nothing about, again, I go back to America 250 years ago, Alexander Hamilton, the idea that, we're going to be creating credit for infrastructure and internal improvements. And that's what we were going to do in other countries to end colonial policy. I don't hear any of that. I hear basically like a mafia don, saying, pay up, buddy.
Yeah. No, it's just, we've got ourselves really in a pickle now because he's gone back to war, and this war and this, ostensibly to open the Strait of Hormuz, and we can't win it. We absolutely cannot win it.
And also, when I listen to what's happening to this oil thing, with all that case, we're running out of actually active oil rigs because we need to discover new oil fields. We need to invest. Oil mining companies, they need to invest into new oil fields. They need to invest into equipment. And they need to, in general, because I think some people maybe they have wrong understanding of what oil sector actually is. It's very expensive to mine oil in some regions, and in such a situation. Actually, I feel sorry for people who are engaged in risk analysis, and actually in any business, but mostly in oil and gas sphere, because they cannot even prognose anything. They cannot even make a midterm plan for the oil mining. With these prices, I don't know, it's like a sinusoid. And it's unpredictable in general. So what's going to happen to oil supply in general in midterm, at least? Actually, this is asking myself.
So you got to come back and ask what oil is not oil. So you can't talk about it in generic. You have to talk about it in specific. Are we talking sweet crude or are we talking sour crude? And then it's a function of what are the refineries that are available to that country? Do they have? Can they handle both, or not? So there is not, with respect to sweet crude, there is not a problem. There's not a shortage in the world. That's fine. The West Texas Intermediate. Yet what's interesting is the prices of it, like West Texas Intermediate and Brent, they're up substantially.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. Yeah, about Brent. Exactly. That's up. What is it? It's gone up 5% following the newest strikes against Iran.
Oh, at least. I thought
at least. I could be wrong. Yeah.
What was I can tell you real quick here? Let's see. It's up. Brent's up to $84 now. West Texas Intermediate, which is this very light oil, it's at 78. It's gone up. The problem is, I keep coming back to it, it's the sour crude. What comes out of the Persian Gulf is sour crude. That's why they're able to also export sulfur and urea. That doesn't get turned back on easily. And right now, the world is now on a 4-month deficit. They didn't feel the pain initially from February 28th to, say, April 15th, because there were already tankers filled with oil that were on the high seas, sailing to their destination. So there was still, if you will, the supply of oil had not been cut off. Once they arrived at their destination, there was no more flow coming their way. So that's really where the crisis started, around mid-April, and it has not been alleviated since. So it's not just in the United States. This is a global shortage of sour crude that causes a global shortage of diesel and aviation fuel, and that competition is going to heat up. That's not easily solved. And the other problem you have is if the oil wells, as they pump, they got to fill up these storage tanks, and they fill up tankers. Once they're full, they have to shut down the wells. And when you shut down the well, it's like saying, okay, I'm going to turn off the lights and going to bed, get up in the morning, I'm going to turn the lights back on. You can't do that. That's not how this works. So once it's shut down, it may take days, weeks, even months to get restarted, to get back up. But I want to come back to this issue of why the United States can't win a war in the Strait of Hormuz. They state their goal is they want to degrade Iran's ability to fire missiles and drones to interfere with ships that try to go through the Omani Channel on the southern part of the Strait of Hormuz. The problem is you've got about a 200-mile coastline that goes from the northern part of the Strait of Hormuz to the southern part down and around Syria. And all along there are caves built into the side. There are high cliffs and there are caves in there with missiles. It's not like they got a missile battery out in the open that's not disguised. They got some of these are underground. They have drones from other structures. There are literally probably more than 1,000 targets the United States would need to try to destroy in order to, quote, ensure that Iran couldn't interfere with any ships trying to go out without complying with the Iranian demands and protocols. Well, we don't have enough weapons to do that. The United States, the more it uses, as it uses Tomahawks and or JASSM cruise missiles, then it is depleting something that we cannot replace anytime soon. And so this is not the only theater, because at the Department of War now, as it's called, Department of Defense, the other theater commanders, theater sinks, whether we're talking European Command or Indo-PACOM. I mean, Indo-PACOM says, we got to have X number of Tomahawks. We have to have X number of JASSMs. So when you look at the total inventory, that's not all just dedicated to CENTCOM. And so the United States has got to basically attack 1,000 targets. And the fact is, the Iranians can restock those targets sometimes within a day or two, sometimes within a week. So now we're playing whack-a-mole with a group of moles that never stop. Meanwhile, Iran's target list, 8. They have 8 targets is all they need to focus on. They focus on the air base, we'll up it to 10. There's an air base and a U.S. Army base in Kuwait. Then there's an air base and the 5th Fleet headquarters that's now basically dismantled in Bahrain. There's Al Udeid Air Force Base. There's Al Dhafra Air Base in United Arab Emirates. There's Duqm, which is a Navy logistics resupply base in Oman. There's a critical oil refinery in the United Arab Emirate for refueling, providing jet fuel. And then you got 2 air bases in Jordan, the Muwafiq al-Salti and the Prince Hassan or King Fahd. I keep hearing different names. Anyway, that's 10 targets. They don't have to hit 1,000. They don't have to hit 100. All they have to do is just keep pounding the shit out of 10 specific targets that aren't moving, and they hit them every day after day after day. At some point, you're going to so degrade the capability that they will no longer operate. That's why Iran is going to decimate our bases before we decimate and degrade their ability to stop ships in the Strait of Hormuz. That is something that people just are not taking into account.
Regarding bases, I have a question. Europe is also known for having a lot of American bases, especially Germany. I think the number of troops is like 80,000 people, if not more. So is, in theory, European countries also a target of some sort? Because now they see, like Finns, they want to deploy nuclear weapons on the territory. For me, it looks like, I don't know.
Suicide.
Of course, Cesare Lombroso is not very popular right now because Vokes hate him.
What do you mean a target?
Well, what Europe is doing, I mean that if US continues to provoke Iran, for example, Iran, because Russia will not do it obviously now, but in possible future, doesn't having a American base on its territory pose a threat to a country where the base is located?
Well, yeah, if that base is used to launch military operations. Now, I know, so I'm very familiar with Germany, at least Stuttgart, where both AFRICOM and EUCOM are based. None of you got Patch Barracks, Kelly Barracks, and Panzer, sort of the 3 main installations right there. They don't have any combat capability. So you're not launching missiles from there. You're not launching airstrikes. So, from that standpoint, hitting those bases wouldn't make any sense other than just to disrupt the headquarters activity. For U.S. soldiers to get detailed to Europe, it's a sweet deal. Germany until probably the last 3 or 4 years is really always a great place to be based. Food was great, people were great. it was considered you want to be stuck there rather than in some in Djibouti. Oh my God, that's a nightmare. Of course, it makes me think of KC and the Average White Band. Shake, 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 shake Djibouti. Sorry.
Well, so actually, on what Jelena is bringing up, Eric Vod, who is a former brigadier general, former advisor to Angela Merkel in Germany, he recently came out in an interview and said this is not like 1914 when countries seemed to sleepwalk into war, which is the way I tended to think about things. He said everything is much more conscious now. The language, the Russophobic language, and again, going back to Lindsey Graham, right? His whole thing was, hey, we're making money practically killing Russians. So, it wasn't about stopping the invasion; it was kill Russians. But even though he said that, Eric Vod said that about World War III potentially, the London Telegraph just came out and said that Russia is selling records amount of gas to the EU through, Siberian processing facilities. In other words, you've been talking a lot about oil, but now let's talk a little bit about gas from that same sort of vantage point. They're in no position to actually go to war with Russia at all.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's like fantasy baseball or fantasy soccer. You sit down and you select a team and you just get to play it on. You don't actually play it, but you think you're playing. And they're indulging, they're lying to themselves. And it's only when they get forced into reality that they wake up and go, holy smokes, we're not prepared to fight this. The United States, when they started started the war with Russia and Ukraine and committed themselves to providing weapons and other material support, I don't think anybody had ever sat down and really run the numbers and said, if we get into an industrial war where we're going to have to, we're going to suffer losses and we're going to have to replace those losses, do we have the industrial capability to do it? Right. And what they've now discovered is, no, we don't. In fact, I don't know how they could have missed this, because that was a lesson from World War II. It wasn't about how sophisticated a weapon system was. By God, you wanted to crank out those planes and Sherman tanks as fast as you could. They didn't have numbers. Quantity overwhelmed quality. And we saw that particularly on the Eastern Front, where the Germans invested heavily in these incredible tanks. Some of them were they were genuine monsters in terms of size and capability, but sometimes they were so damn heavy they couldn't maneuver, like when the Houthis came and they got stuck in the mud, or the maintenance requirements for them were so onerous. They actually, what Germany did in the final days, the last year of the war, in terms of their weapon production, they set the early model for what the United States model is now, where the United States builds these incredible weapon systems, supposedly incredible. They're incredibly expensive. And let's take the F-35 as an example. It's a fifth generation fighter, does all these great, wonderful things. Problem is, its readiness level is 25%. It's 25. Best is 30%. So that means out of 100 or out of 10 planes, you're going to get only 2 to 3 that are going to function on any given day. The other 7 are going to be stuck in the hangar or maintenance issue or something. And this is what I find really amusing, that Turkey wants those and we're willing to sell those to Turkey. It's like, how better to screw over Turkey to make sure Turkey can never do anything militarily by selling them a turkey of an airplane.
I think that's the same thing with the Patriot systems. They're $5 million a piece. Stanislav,
The missile. The
missile. That's right. The missile. The PAC-3.
Yeah.
The PAC-3.
Yes,
I believe is $5 million. It's 400 different suppliers because every screw is custom made, and it takes 2 years to assemble it. So what if we give I'm assuming it even happens, give Ukraine the right to build those things? It's not going to do anything.
right. Well, and it's just as Ted Postal, I think, has demonstrated pretty well in some of his recent broadcasts. He did one 2 weeks ago with Danny Davis. He's done another one more recently. Less than 10% intercept rate on ballistic missiles. Now, they may be fine for intercepting aircraft, may be fine for intercepting drones, but as far as ballistic missiles go, forget about it. And yet, the other dimension to it is, so you got to fire 2 of those PAC-3s at every incoming ballistic missile, at least 2. So, you know, and I've seen actually the cost of each missile has ranged between $4 to $6 million. So it'll take $5 million, as you did with them, as the middle ground. That's $10 million worth of missiles to take out a $50,000, maybe a $200,000, maybe even $1 million ballistic missile. It's, you know, you're going to spend $10 million to take out a $1 million target. Doesn't make any kind of economic sense whatsoever. It bankrupts you as a country eventually, which is what's happening.
Well, I guess I was talking to a person who was in a training like managers for managers. It's in the corporate field in Europe. And actually all these practices that came to Europe, they came from America, this 4-year plan when a certain manager, a certain position has to fulfill the contractual obligations, and they don't even think further than these four years because they have shareholders, and the shareholders set goals, say we need like 15% profit, and if manager doesn't comply with that, well, of course, manager is in trouble. But as soon as manager complies with the profit at any cost, they don't think about development of business. They don't think about development of industry as such. They only think about profits. And what they do, actually, they squeeze out the people who can plan and who can work. And what's the saddest of all of that is that thinking is also integrated into political level as well. So the politicians that we both have on both sides of the oceans, they also think like in this 4 years from elections to elections, and they don't care what happens next, because real statesperson or real manager of the enterprise, they have to think in long term. But I don't see this long-term thinking at all, at least on the level that I can see. Maybe somewhere deep inside there are analysts who actually try to prognose at least for 15, for 20 years, but it's not visible.
You're right. No, you're right. There's that's what's so bizarre about all of this, that it stands in sharp contrast to what the Chinese do. The Chinese do long-term planning. They do 5-year plans. And the difference between China and the United States is people are held accountable if they don't meet the goals of their 5-year plan. So, that once you get people organized around saying, "Hey, we gotta be serious about this," then all of a sudden, and they pay attention to it. This explains why China has just blown the doors off the United States and has been becoming the world's preeminent industrial power.
That makes perfect sense. And, this is something you'd said earlier, and what you're talking about China makes me think about Eisenhower, which I'd mentioned earlier, because Donald Trump, as you said, he's now back to war. And with his support of this Sanctioning Russia Act, it's literally against everything that he campaigned against. Now, I was looking at the Sinai crisis. What was that? The Suez Canal crisis, 1956, 57, I believe.
56.
Yeah.
It was a year after I was born.
Okay. So the thing that was interesting to me, yes, Israel seized that territory. They actually held it for a bit there. Nasser had nationalized, I believe, the Suez Canal. So the British, the French, the Israelis, all the Western European powers, basically, and the new state of Israel conspired to run this operation. And the thing that was interesting with Eisenhower is he told all the allies, screw yourself. He told Israel, you have to give this land back. He said, this idea of militarily taking other territory, he put his foot down.
Yeah.
We haven't had a president put their foot down against these wars since Eisenhower.
Correct. Yeah, no, well, the closest we came was Reagan with Israel in 1982, telling them to get the hell out. They had to leave Lebanon. But that wasn't as dramatic as what Eisenhower did. You're correct.
So in other words, Trump was claiming to channel Teddy Roosevelt, who said that the biggest threat is communism, which of course, that statement doesn't even make sense because it didn't exist at the time of Teddy Roosevelt's life. And
right.
But why not channel Eisenhower, who did run the biggest military in world history?
Yeah,
and who also stood for principle.
Yeah, whatever flaws that Eisenhower had as a man, and he did have flaws. Still, when it came to that, he understood very clearly what the implications were for the United States, and what needed to be done to protect the United States instead of becoming, beholden to these corporations where they're gonna drive the plane, they're gonna drive the boat. You don't have a choice.
Yeah. And he made Israel give that land back. So this idea that we can't seem to function properly does really, it drives me up the wall because we keep seeming to do whatever those financial powers insist that we have to do. And I think the biggest problem is American people have a woeful ignorance of their own history.
Right.
Well, not only that, actually, I was talking to my friend. He's a psychiatric doctor, actually, but we were just communicating and discussing the crime rates within the teenage groups. And actually, this is a very big problem because, like today, it was announced that South Korea lowers the, rate when this liability is enforced till the age of 13. So I see that I'm just trying to think what kind of world are we living to these teenagers who are now teenagers, and what kind of world they're going to live, because we are responsible for them. And I don't think that statespeople who are actually supposed to think about what are we going to live for our future, they don't think about that. And this actually makes me a bit nervous. Because...
Yeah, well, there's again, it gets back to what kind of values are taught and upheld in a society. And one of the problems with the West is that it's just been embracing an entire freak culture. And I saw today that this girl, Ellen Page, who's now declared herself as a male, and insists that there's such thing as gender fluidity, complete denial of biology. I mean, good God, the fact that people who advocate transgenderism can even be taken seriously for a moment is a sign, a symptom of the sickness of this society. Because all you need to do is go to a farm and deal with animals, whether we're talking chickens or cows or pigs or goats or llamas or whatever. It's called biology, and the animals don't reproduce because one comes out and says, "You know what? I think I'm a bull. I think I'm a steer." If you're a cow, And a bull can't walk up and claim to be a cow. See, I've got pretend udders underneath, and we can milk them. So that's why when we separate ourselves from nature, and we build this false wall that separates us, it's easy then to become enamored and misled with all sorts of nonsense. But anybody that's actually had to be out in the cold, out in nature, where you don't have all the support systems that are so common in the modern world. And frankly, I'd say a majority of the people in the West have never experienced what it's like to live without electricity, without running water. It's like, well, how do you survive under those circumstances?
Mm-hmm.
That's why, I feel fortunate. My wife and I, when we were, youngsters, back in 1978, when we lived in the out in the campo, in the countryside of Honduras, there was no electricity, there was no running water, so you had to figure out how do we get a safe supply of water? How do we keep that water?
How'd you charge your cell phone?
Yeah, my what? Yeah, yeah. No such animal. We did have a generator that would operate 2 hours, 3 hours a day. That was it. But then again, you had to always go get diesel fuel to power the generator. So, it changes your perspective once you realize that how you deal with nature. Nature does affect us, and what we've done is we've built things to insulate us from reality. So.
Well, that's very interesting. There's a lot that we, I think, could have talked about here. I was just scanning some things about Russia discovering the FSB discovering some drone facilities, like in the middle of Russia. I mean, on the one side, that's bad. On the other side, that's good, because it seems like they're doing a much more improved job sniffing this stuff out. Now you have Zelensky is shaking up his government. I don't know what's going on with that at all. But you have any comments before you have to go, Larry?
Yeah, no. Well, we're the war with Russia is on a new footing. It is on a war footing now with respect to Ukraine. I think it's going to destroy the port in Odessa, make it impossible for Ukraine to export anything from Odessa, shut them down. They're making sure they shut down all of their industrial plants. And, I'd be curious. I think that Lindsey Graham probably inadvertently led the Russians to that drone factory the other day. They're monitoring him, and they said, wherever Lindsey goes, that's where we go.
Yeah. There you go. All right. Well, that was really fast, Larry. That felt like 5 minutes. So thank you very much for your time. It was very interesting.
Yeah, it's always very quick,
I always enjoy the chance to chat with you guys, and just
thank you.
So send me the link, and when I do my nightly posts, I put it up so we get hopefully drive more people to go watch the whiners.
Yeah, and East Calling both. We got a combined effort. We actually streamed in a bunch of different places, so that was very good. All right, Larry, you have a good day. Jelena, talk to you later. Thanks to
Bye, my friends. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Take care.